It's October. It's 2/3 of the way through October.
Right.
And it's
like
80 degrees outside.
70, 80 degrees. Yeah.
Right? The garage doors are open, and we're sitting out practically outside having a beer.
Works for me.
Life is good right now. So today we are going on location at Brew Gentleman, and I'm here with Tyler from the Center for Victims. We're going to talk about their Men Challenge, what they're trying to accomplish with it, their goals, what he's been doing in social media and digital to try to promote and get the message out, and enjoying some good beer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good beer.
Yeah, right? So the first thing we do when we do our happy hour is talk about what we're drinking.
Okay.
So what do you got there?
Well, see, and that's the hard thing, because I actually don't know what this one is.
Oh, you don't?
No, it's delicious though. It is a. Let me see. I can't even remember what kind it is. Blanking on it. I'd have to go look. I'd know it if I saw it.
Okay.
It's delicious. I usually go for the General Braddock's IPA.
That's what I have here.
Okay.
So this is the first time I've ever been here. I've been looking forward to coming here because all my buddies keep telling me I got to make it over. And the General Braddock's IPA is the first thing they've recommended, so I'm trying it out and I love it.
It's absolutely delicious.
And we're going to be taking some growlers home later tonight.
Yeah.
And I think that might be my vote. My wife is here walking around with something else. We'll see what she likes.
Well, it's crazy too, because they don't just have beer, they have mead. And if you had mead before, it's a honey based and it's absolutely delicious.
I've never had it. I've heard about it. I heard it's very good.
I would recommend it. Yeah, try it while you're here.
Isn't that old school, like
Middle Ages?
Middle Ages.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, the last time I've even heard of mead was they have it at the Renaissance Festival.
Okay.
But yeah, so it is like an ancient kind of drink, but I mean it's very good. But
nice.
If you like a sweet drink,
I'll try. I'm going to try it tonight. We'll see. We'll see. Go ahead and explain to us, what the Center for Victims, what they're all about.
Right. We are the largest victim service agency in the state. We operate in Allegheny County. We serve any victim of any crime. There are other agencies that'll deal with like rape victims or sexual assault. Some are domestic violence specific. We are unique in the sense that we will help any victim of any crime, homicide, robbery, assault, anything you could think of. We have multiple locations throughout the county. We have a domestic violence shelter in McKeesport. We have an admin building there as well. We have our admin office as well as our therapy is in East Liberty, is our other office. That's where I work from. But we are over 40 years old and we help over 10,000 victims every year.
Awesome. I know we've been working with you. My wife and I have been involved in a couple of events, and we try to get around to a lot of what you do. It seems like you have a good community, a solid community of people that stay involved. How do you maintain the relationships with your supporters?
Well, it's really one of those things where our work kind of speaks for itself. A lot of the community of people that we'll have, and our supporters are very steadfast supporters, but a lot of them in one way or another were impacted by violence somewhere along their life. Maybe it was their mother, their father, maybe it was them themselves or someone they know. So our core mission is really what unites us with the community. People see what we do and see the work we do, but they might have been a client of ours 20 years ago, and they're looking for a way to give back down the line when they're able to. But a lot of it is really, it's word of mouth, and it's our mission. That's what it is. So.
The Men Challenge is, you have a separate website for that, and I know you have a separate Facebook page for it, so it seems like it's got its own, you guys are, the intention is to make it sort of its own entity.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was launched in, I want to say, March of 2014, and it is a pledge and action campaign. So it starts with signing a pledge saying that you are against violence against women and girls, and that you yourself are going to be a proactive bystander. We don't leave it at a pledge because it's easy to say, oh, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to hurt people. It's even more than that. Well, events like this, it's forming a community of men that know what to do. They get the resources, tools, and education they need, and it's a visible sign in the community of people standing up and saying, we've had enough. We've seen in the news, in politics, the Bill Cosby incident, These things are constantly bubbling up. The Brock Turner incident, so it's really on the forefront of people's minds. But the question is, from a male perspective, what are you going to do about it? I mean, it's one thing to share a post on Facebook and condemn, an instance of rape or sexual assault, but it's another to actually take it the next step and form, a community of people that are going to say, we're actually in the community, you'll see us at these events, and we're standing up for what is right.
So the term you used was active bystander, was that correct?
Yeah, active bystander or proactive bystander, and it's really, the concept goes back a ways, but it's called the bystander effect. And if there was someone getting attacked right out on the street right now, the more witnesses there are, the less likely it is for any individual person to call the police. Because there's this thought in your mind where it's someone else will get it, someone else will do it. I don't want to be involved in someone's personal stuff. But really, that's what we're trying to break, because it's reasons like that you don't have people reporting the crimes, and it's also part of why women won't come forward with their stories, because they feel like they won't be believed. So really, it's...
I understand the second part of that, but so it almost seems counterintuitive to me, but you're saying, so if there's a man and a woman getting into it in the street.
Right.
If there's one person walking by, they're more likely to get involved, say, hey, what's going on, than if there's a crowd of 20.
Yep. And
That's
the reason is, according to, I'm not a sociologist or a psychologist, but the reasoning that was given was that there is this kind of concept of responsibility, but it's divided. So if there are 20 people watching this happen, not any individual person feels personally responsible to own that because there are the other people. When you're alone, though, it's all on you, so you're much more likely to do the right thing.
Right.
But that's kind of the key, and you would think that, no one could get attacked in broad daylight, in the street and no one say anything, but it has happened, and it's unfortunate. But that's kind of part of the entire campaign. It's being, aware. Looking around while you're walking. If you see people fighting, maybe try to break it up, maybe try to divert attention. There are many ways to go about it, but really being aware and being ready to step up and say something, when you need to, because you can't count on someone else doing it.
Yeah, it's funny, now you're reminding me of training that I received. At some point in time, I remember going through training where it was sort of an incident response training where you point to somebody and say, you go call the police, instead of saying someone call the police. Right. Because you say someone, everybody says, well, somebody else will.
Right.
But you point to the person and say, you go call the police.
Yeah, and you assign the responsibility, and then they'll do it because they feel that as, something they have to do, or I'm a bad person.
Right.
But you could walk away from that situation with the 20 people and not even feel bad. Because you could say, well,
not my problem.
Not my problem, and no one else called either.
Right.
And it's almost like a way to excuse that behavior. But that's kind of what we need to be visible to kind of prevent. That's kind of one of the major crux issues of this group. So.
Okay. So this event in particular, tell me a little bit about it.
The happy hour event?
The happy hour, yeah.
Well, it's really a very simple concept, but it's hard to get a group of men together and, okay, we're going to meet in 2 weeks and we're going to get together and we're going to talk about violence against women. That's a really hard sell. So we understand that it's not an easy topic to talk about, and guys don't tend to want to talk about it at all.
Right.
But it's a lot easier with free drinks and free food. So that's kind of the goal. And come on down, we still have room.
Especially when it's this good.
Yeah, really.
So you're still inviting people in.
Absolutely,
if there's anybody out there that sees this, come on down. I have a couple questions now. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to prioritize it. So how did you identify in the first place who you're inviting to this event in the first?
Well, really, it's going out through our networks, but we're trying to just get men involved in the city. So we tried everything, from Facebook, social media, word of mouth. We printed posters. We've been all over the community. We've had multiple, information tables and events where we're just doing word of mouth. But really, we're just trying to get men involved and engaged in the city, especially in regions like this where we do have a major presence in this area in terms of our clients. We do see a lot of clients from Braddock, for instance, but we don't necessarily have that same level of interest in prevention, which is important because we don't want to only be there for you after you're a victim.
Right.
It's a losing situation. So It's really about getting that engagement from the community, and it keeps itself going. It's a self-feeding thing, and it's really been great so far. So.
And you've had support from some big names in the community. If you look at the header image on your website, Art Rooney's on there, right?
Yeah.
Art Rooney II. Yeah. Who else is involved that most people would know?
Well, let me think. We just had in March was our 11th annual Piece It Together award ceremony, and that's where we recognize people who have been doing really good work in the community. There's, we give an award to corporations, to individuals. The guest speaker was a man named Victor Rivas Rivers, and he is a legendary actor, activist, author. He actually was gracious enough to fly in early and film a commercial for us that's actually running right now on TV. So you might see him if you pay attention. But yeah, he was the latest kind of celebrity to sign the pledge. Roberto Clemente Jr. Signed it. I'm trying to think. Oh, there's so many. Actually, Jackson Katz, who does his own violence prevention initiative called Mentors in Violence Prevention MVP program, he actually came as well to the city. He's not from the city and signed our pledge too. But really, a lot of people have, but not enough. We're hoping to get you.
So how many people have signed so far?
We've had over 400 pledge signatures so far, and this is just since 2014, so keep that in mind, but we're always looking to expand it more and more. It's really the kind of campaign where we can only do so much as an agency. It requires people like you and everyone really committing themselves to this issue. If we didn't have these wonderful people telling their friends, telling their family, and doing it with passion, we wouldn't have an event here tonight.
Yeah.
So it's really the community that we're looking to build. So.
Okay. When we talk about the change that you're trying to make, I was reading it on the website that you're trying to change even the way people speak. The language that people use in day-to-day conversation that sort of minimizes the I don't want to say rape culture, but and one that really sort of makes my skin crawl when I hear it is when somebody says that they got raped by a company or that right. So you're that always makes me cringe just a little bit, right? But it's things that are ingrained into our culture, that we just say things and you don't realize exactly what you're saying, the
impact of it.
Right.
It's totally lost. And I absolutely agree. Words matter. The things you say matter. The words you choose, the way you choose to describe something matters. And it matters to you and it matters to them because it's setting an agenda, it's setting an expectation. So when you say, that company raped me, you're either saying that rape isn't a very terrible crime, or you're saying that a company is committing sexual acts. Well, of course, neither of those are true.
Right.
But what you're actually doing is minimizing the experience of a rape victim, and it's reasons like that. And it's not just that overt. It can be things like teaching women how to dress and how to drink instead of teaching men not to rape or be predators.
Yeah.
Those are also language issues that set an agenda and kind of shut people out of a debate before it even starts. So it is important. We have to watch the words we choose, absolutely. In terms of culture, too, it goes far beyond this. I mean, another major issue and one of the core components of the Men Challenge is getting men to actually think about what masculinity means as a concept to you. A lot of masculinity is built on subjugating women in some way. You got to control your girl, and I'm not going to use terrible language, so I'm going to stop
we'll
there.
Keep it clean.
But we know this kind of locker room talk and that kind of thing.
You went there.
Happens all the time. But and it's not easy to change. It is kind of, you do run up against this wall of frustration sometimes because cultural change is slow. It's a conscious thing too. I mean, if you're talking about the way you're speaking, most of that's automatic. Yeah. So you need a conscious awareness to be saying, oh, I don't want to say that. Oh, this could be taken the wrong way. And you need to be doing that constantly. So it is effort and it is hard, but that's no excuse not to try. And it's certainly, it's not going to change anything. Sorry for the truck.
Yeah.
And it certainly isn't going to change anything if you don't do anything. So.
Well, and I think it's sparking the awareness because I don't know that 25 years ago or 20 years ago, if somebody would have said, give me another instance other than the rape example, like something that somebody says that's like a violent.
Oh gosh, there's so many. Well, a lot of it is a common one is, and it's done in many different ways, but if a woman is in emotional pain or in distress, she's crazy. It's a very simple one.
So just sort of minimizing it and blowing it off.
All your trauma, all your sadness, oh no, you're just crazy. And it's a really simple one, but it's very profound when you think about what you're actually saying and what you're not saying.
Completely dismissing everything they're feeling.
Yeah, and you can't have a productive conversation past that point once you say it.
Okay.
But there's a million instances. I'm just on camera, I'm blanking, so.
And that's, I mean, we look in our relationship, not to bring us into it, but I think we've both said that to each other, right? I think so. You know, like so, it's so. I mean, so the one that makes my skin crawl, and then there's something else that you don't even know. You don't even realize.
Yeah.
It.
And that's kind of where the true work is. I mean, it's step one is coming here and being reminded, being aware, being cognizant. But the real work is when you leave, and you have to monitor your behavior and also be, aware and watching other people as well. Because these things are already ingrained in the society. Dangerous, I'll call them dangerous notions of masculinity, like that men are superior to women inherently, that they need to control them, that there's violence is innate to being a man. That's another common one. Those are all things that need to be undone, and that's not a quick process.
Yeah, I can't imagine that
it's over generations, but that's no excuse not to do it. So I mean, it is the long fight and the long haul.
Well, especially when the cool things like certain movies or songs or genres are violent.
Yeah.
Right. So if all the cool things are violent, how do you fight against that with anything?
It is difficult, and it's one of those things, and that's why we need not just commitment, and this is why we were trying to involve men in the first place. This work has been pioneered by women as early as the 70s. I mean, the ones that were focusing on sexual assault and domestic violence, they were women's organizations, and they were doing very good work, except the only problem is you're leaving out half the population, and you're leaving out the half of the population that's statistically most likely to be the offenders in the first place. Even men who are victims of violence tend to be victims of other men's violence. So really, it's not about, men have a unique capacity to solve this problem. It's that they need to be at the table, because if you're going to do a cultural change and succeed, you need to have everyone behind you, not just a portion of the population.
The problem that I always see, and it comes into my head every time I attend one of your events and I think about impacting the change, and I know that there's that you are moving the needle in even the fact that a company raped me makes my skin crawl, right? Saying that, but at the same time, the people that go so far as to actually commit an act, they're not attending your events. They're not, they don't care to a degree, right? So how do you get to that person? Like, how does that change happen?
It's hard. I mean, there is a certain amount of acceptance of the fact that you can't reach everyone, and that not everyone is going to be even willing to change. But that being the case, really, violence is multi-generational, and it is not learned at one point in your life. But what we do know from the data is that if a child is exposed to violence in their neighborhoods, if they hear gunshots, if they know someone who was shot, those types of incidences, they are more likely as they age to be not only a victim, but to be an offender too. Violence goes generationally. So if we want to reach, I don't look at it as we need to reach this one specific person. I'm looking at it on a different level of how do we stop violence in our neighborhoods. It is a commitment of generations, decades. And you need to be in the schools like we are. We're in many local high schools and middle schools with children, teaching them about safe dating and how to avoid domestic violence and how to be the kind of person that they should be. But it involves you talking to the children. It involves you engaging their parents. It involves you engaging, teenagers. Everyone needs to be involved, because any incidence of community violence poisons the whole community. And it keeps going, and it feeds itself. And we see it over and over again, and it's unfortunate, but that's where your opportunity is.
And really, I mean, you guys have been around for 40 years. You're maybe touching 3 generations at this point, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's going to take a long time to hit.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's, we're not in this la-la land where we think that, in 10 years we will fix crime.
Yeah, right,
And that's, unrealistic, and we're not unrealistic. But I mean, it's all about, which way are you trending?
Fighting the good fight. And
Right.
trying to...
Is violent crime on the rise, or is it on the decline? And that matters. That matters greatly.
It's October. It's 2/3 of the way through October.
Right.
And it's
Like
80 degrees outside.
70, 80 degrees. Yeah.
Right? The garage doors are open, and we're sitting out practically outside having a beer.
Works for me.
Life is good right now.
I said cheers to that.
Yeah, cheers to that.
Indeed.
We want to talk about social media and how it impacts creating, like using social media responsibly, and how it impacts what you guys are doing.
Yeah, social media has been an amazing addition for us. It kind of, in a way that doesn't require a lot of resources or time. Just a little background, I'm in the development department, so we're focused on, getting the word out there, but we're only a staff of 3 people in our department, so anything to save time and money is critical. But social media has been huge for us to keep us connected to people that are interested in us, but also to get the word out mostly about our services. Our number one goal always is to let people know that we're available to help them if they're the victim of any crime at all. So really, the main goal is basically to let anyone in Allegheny County know that if you're the victim of any crime at any point in time, that you can call us, and our number is 1-866-644-2882. That's a 24-hour crisis hotline. But that's the number one goal, is awareness, to just let them know that we're there. But then we have, changing the culture, trying to get conversations started, and it's been wonderful for that. We have events throughout the year, this being one of them, of course, but then in between that, we don't want to seem like, we've disappeared. It's enabled us to be approachable in a way that never existed before. A lot of people aren't willing, like I know I'm one of these personally, I'm not a fan of calling someone on the phone. So if I can do like a live chat or whatever
Right.
it is, and it's one of those avenues. We've had people approach us that way. It's just another way,
That's good.
where they can get a hold of us. Yeah, so it really works on every level.
So what platform are you most active on?
I would say we're most active on Facebook. It seems to be where most of our audience is. We are also on Twitter, on Instagram as well, and LinkedIn. And we are active on all of those platforms, but I would say we have the most engagement back on Facebook. It just seems to be where people feel comfortable having the conversation. I know, of course, Twitter, it's hard to have any kind of conversation, but it seems to be the one that took off the most. But of course, we're everywhere. So,
Any opportunities that you see coming up in the next couple of months, couple of years, like any of these platforms you want to take more advantage of?
well, we're always looking to see where people are. It always comes down to, of course, like I said, our audience seems to be on Facebook right now, but that's the audience we have right now. So what about the audience we want? Or if there are segments of the community that we feel we're not reaching, that's always a conversation that we're having. Are, certain groups, do they know that our services exist? Do they know what we're there for them? For instance, there's a rising immigrant population in the city. So that might be having translation services for like our materials. That might be having someone who can speak another language at our call center, or whatever. But social media is kind of similar in that regard, where if we feel that there's a big group of people on, like Snapchat, and this is one we were talking about recently, maybe we want to go ahead and do that. But the question is always, is it worth it? Are we able to devote the time and energy to it that it deserves? But coming up, we may have a Snapchat account, but it's in
That's
talks.
one that came to mind, and as you're talking, I was thinking about it because I know it's growing so fast.
Yeah.
But it was, and by the nature of Snapchat, the whole, the coming and going of the content. It might fit if you can find a creative way to do it. Yeah, it could be interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're talking about. The one thing that I would say that we would be concerned about with Snapchat is that it almost gives this false sense of security because of that. And what we don't want is clients disclosing through that medium. And the reason we don't want that is it's because it is not technically secure. There are risks involved, and it's not permanently deleted when it goes away. It still exists on servers. A lot of, especially in domestic violence situations, anything like that can be the difference between life and death. If you have a partner who's going through your phone, they see that you were, contacting this agency, that could be a problem. That could be a major problem. So we're always cognizant of the safety aspect, but that's always a back and forth. And sometimes fears are overblown, sometimes they're not. So we'll see. You may or may not see it. So.
Is there anything we haven't hit on? I know we're getting a little loud here, so we'll probably have to start wrapping it up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think we've really covered pretty much everything. I would just say, from a personal perspective, if you have not signed our Men Challenge Pledge or know someone who hasn't, I would direct you to go to menchallenge.org and sign it and join us. And if you're free, come on down.
And we'll link it up on our page. And I'm sure you have it on your page.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll put it out there more so you can see it again.
Alrighty.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Appreciate your
much.
time. Thank you very much. For anybody that doesn't know, this is Mr. David Atkins.
Hi.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
David Atkins. I actually work for Visit Pittsburgh. I am the Vice President of Digital Marketing for Visit Pittsburgh. But the reason why I'm here today is that I am the Chairman of the Board of Directors for the Center for Victims. And I just wanted to say hi and say how proud I am of the fact that the Center for Victims chose a man in a role that has traditionally been taken by a lady. And I will say it this way. This is not a Trump statement like yay men. What it is to say that they recognize that men are just as much of the power to help victims as any lady is, and they have recognized the fact that this guy here is truly interested in bettering men and women. I'm humbled by that, in fact. I thank the center, I thank Lori, I thank the rest of the board for voting me into this position, and I do my best constantly to make sure that the Center for Victims stays on mission, focuses, and does our very best for all victims, victims of all sorts, shapes, sizes, men and women, children. And during Domestic Violence Month, that's an even bigger deal for us. So, like I said, I want to say thank you. And I want to make sure that everybody out there knows that this guy is very happy to be a part of this organization. Not just as a guy, but as somebody who has been a victim and has known many victims.
I didn't know that.
Absolutely. I'll tell you my story very briefly. I moved to Pittsburgh to go to university here. I went to Carnegie Mellon. I lived in Shadyside. Are you a CMU alum too?
Well, I work there.
There you go. Well, I went to CMU a lot longer ago than you've been working there. But anyway, while at CMU, I lived in Shadyside on the corner of Howe and Ivy Street, right around the corner from Walnut Street. So I happened to be walking home from Walnut Street, and I got jumped by 4 guys who jumped out of the back of a pickup truck and were just beating me up simply for having brown skin. A victim. But I got over that fact. And, unfortunately or fortunately, I didn't need the Center for Victims at that time. I wish I'd have known that they were there because I would have reached out. But it was the community of my friends that helped me to get past that. And even though I got beat up, I beat up one of them. And I say that to say being a victim doesn't necessarily mean that you're a hapless victim.
Right.
Sometimes you're a victim even though you tried to stand up. If you're in that circumstance, you know what? Reach out to us at the center. We'll help you.
Well, so in your story, you didn't reach out to them, maybe mostly because you weren't aware.
Exactly.
And you had a good community of friends, but there's got to be it's got to be hard. I mean, it's hard for women for a lot of reasons.
Absolutely.
But it's also hard for a man, I would think, because of the whole tough guy,
the stigma.
This whole stigma, right?
Yeah.
So how does somebody make that step?
As I said earlier, every one of us has been a victim at some point in our life.
Yeah.
And every one of us knows a victim. At the end of the day, all of us are human, which means that we do make mistakes. We do find ourselves caught in situations that are not good, that are not helpful or healthy. If you can get past your ego and just reach out, there will always be someone there to help you. And that is the beauty of the Center for Victims. They are always there, 24/7, 365, to help. You can pick up the phone, you can go on the internet, you can find us.
So what does that look like? So say I'm a guy, I'm a victim, and I don't know what's going to happen, so I'm a little bit afraid. I don't want to pick up the phone because I don't know what I'm getting into.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give me like a 30,000-foot view of what the process might look like for somebody that tries to engage with you?
Absolutely, either through the 800 number or through centerforvictims.org. It doesn't matter. In fact, you can reach out to a friend who may already know about the Center for Victims. Once you've engaged, there are professionals who will help you get over that either ego, fear, concern, shame.
They're just privacy. If they don't want anybody to know.
110% private. But that first phone call, they will triage your needs and help you to the right person or people that you need to speak to. Especially if you're in the circumstance presently. This is not something that happened in the past. It's something that's happening ongoing. And you reach out, they will help you get to where you need in order to be properly helped.
And it's all about the help, right? Like you're not answering the phone going, okay, now you need to come in, or they can take it as fast or as slow as they want.
Correct.
So that they're comfortable and they do what they feel is best for them.
Absolutely, and in the time frame that you need for it to happen. Unfortunately, for a lot of victims, both men and women, and children, when you reach out, you don't realize that it's ongoing trauma.
Yeah.
You are in a situation where, I'm tired of feeling like this and I don't know what to do. And finally you reach out. That's what I'm saying. When you first make that phone call, you first send that text message or email, the person who engages you at the beginning, they will help you understand where you are in the spectrum of your own pain. And you probably didn't even know where you were. I will tell you, by the time I got to understand that there was a Center for Victims, that there was a board opening, and I started having conversations, I thought back to myself, to my own traumas. I really wish I had them to reach out to, because I was able to get over a lot of it, but I carried this anger.
Yeah.
And they would have, and they since have helped me dispel that anger. And I don't carry that as a 50-pound weight in the backpack of life that we all carry around.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
It's well worth having that conversation.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Absolutely. And like I said before, reach out. If you have a concern, definitely reach out. We're here.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, I think that's it. I think we're good to go. Thanks for spending some time with us, and reach out to the Center for Victims online on Facebook, and the Men Challenge is the other Facebook page they have.
Absolutely.
Specifically for men looking to make that commitment.
Absolutely. Sign that challenge.
Sign the challenge.
See something, say something. Speak up, stand up.
That's right. All right. Hey, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you soon.